Today we're going to be learning how to crochet these super easy fingerless gloves. This is a great project for beginners and I will be working through the stitches with you as we use them. All you're going to need for this project is some worsted weight for acrylic yarn, a pair of scissors, a 5mm hook, a tapestry needle, and the stitch marker is optional but it is helpful. And we can go ahead and get started on our gloves. To get started on our gloves, we need to make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, we're going to wrap the yarn around two of our fingers in a cross, just like that. Then I'm going to pinch that yarn tail with my thumb. And then taking the pointer finger on my right hand, I'm putting that under that first strand of yarn and over the second. Then I'm flipping that second strand of yarn up and pulling it tight. Now that we have our slip knot, we can go ahead and put our hook into the slip knot and pull it down tight. Now we can go ahead and get started on our chain. To make a chain, we're going to yarn over and just pull that directly through the loop on our hook. Again, yarn over and pull that directly through that loop on our hook. And now you're making a chain. So I'm going to keep making chains until I have 32 chains in total. Now your chain length is going to equal the length of your glove from your fingers down to your wrist. So if you'd like a longer glove, go ahead and add more chains, or if you'd like a shorter glove, just make less chains. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and chain 32, and I will meet you back here. Okay, I'm finished with my 32 chains. And my chain is measuring about 8.5 inches. So like I said, if you'd like a longer or shorter glove, just go ahead and change the length of your chain. But I'm happy with this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on row 1. For row 1, we need to place 1 single crochet into each one of our chains for the entire row. And we need to get started in the second chain from the hook. So this here, as you can see, is the first chain, and this is the second chain from the hook. So we're going to place our very first single crochet into that second chain. To make a single crochet, we're going to insert the hook into that second chain, yarn over and pull up a loop so that you have 2 loops on your hook. Then yarn over and pull through both of those loops on the hook to make your first single crochet. Again, insert your hook into the next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop so that you have 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through both of those loops on the hook, and you've made your second single crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and make 1 single crochet into each one of my chains for the entire row, and I should end up with 1 less single crochet stitch than the amount of chains that I made. So because I made 32 chains in total, I should end up with 31 single crochets at the end of this row. Okay, I'm at the end of row 1, and from now on, before every single row, we're going to chain 1 and then flip our work over so we can start working back down in the opposite direction. Okay, to get started on row 2, we're going to be placing 1 single crochet into the back loop only of each one of our stitches for the entire row. So now you can see that at the top of our stitches here we have these 2 V's. This is going to be the front loop, and this here is going to be the back loop. So when we make our single crochets, we want to put the hook into that back loop for every one of our stitches. So for every single row, we're going to be skipping over this chain that we made that does not count as a stitch. And we want to place our very first single crochet into the top of this first stitch here. Again, into the back loop only. So I've put my hook in that back loop only. I'm going to pull up a loop so that I have 2 loops on my hook. And I'm going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops on the hook to make my very first single crochet. Again, I'm going into that next stitch into the back loop and making my next single crochet. So I'm going to repeat that until I reach the end of my row. And you should have the exact same number of stitches in row 2 that you had in row 1. Okay, I'm at the end of row 2. And be sure that you do not miss this very last stitch at the end because it is very easy to skip. And if you miss it, your work is going to get progressively smaller as you add rows. Okay, so I made that very last stitch. And again, before every single row, we're going to chain 1 and flip our work over so that we can work back down in the opposite direction. So for row 3 onward, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did in row 2. We're going to place 1 single crochet into the back loop only of every single stitch for the entire row. Then we're going to chain 1 and flip our work over so we can start on the next row. Make sure that you have the exact same number of stitches in every single row. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat row 2 until I have 32 rows in total. But if you'd like a smaller or larger glove, just like with the chain, you're going to add or remove rows. So I will meet you back here at the end of row 32. Okay, I've finished all 32 of my rows, and again, yours might be a little bit different than mine if you made a smaller or larger glove. But mine is about 7 inches wide. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step. So we're going to fold our glove in half and start attaching this edge together. But first we need to tie off. So I'm going to chain 1 and go ahead and cut my yarn. I want to leave a little bit of a yarn tail here, just enough to sew up that edge of my glove. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that yarn up through the chain that I made and pull it tight. And now we're going to start sewing up these 2 edges to attach them together. Okay, so I want to sew up about 4.5 inches, which is right here, and I'm going to mark that with a stitch marker. And that's where I want my thumb hole to be. But again, yours might be a little bit different if you made a longer or a shorter glove, so go ahead and just hold that up to your hand to see where you'd like your thumb hole to be. Okay, next I am taking my tapestry needle and I'm going to attach it to my yarn tail. Just like that. And we're going to start sewing up this side here. So we're going to sew back and forth along both of these edges until we make it to our stitch marker. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be working into the back loop of our last row and into that first loop. This is our original chain that we made, so there's only 1 loop to work into on that first row. So I'm going into the back loop of our last row in that first stitch and into the first loop of the first row. Just like that. And I'm going to work back and forth into that next stitch and the back loop of the next stitch on the last row. So I'm going to keep working back and forth until I hit my stitch marker. Okay, I have made it all the way to my stitch marker, so I'm going to go ahead and tie off. And I'm going to cut my yarn. And we can weave that in just a minute. I'm going to take my stitch marker out because I don't need it anymore. Okay, so now we're going to use our tapestry needle still on this yarn tail that we cut. And we're going to use it to sew up this top edge of our glove. We want to leave a hole here for our thumb. So this is up to you how large you'd like that to be. I want mine to be about 1 inch down from the top edge. So I'm going to attach my tapestry needle and my yarn to this top corner of my glove. I'm just tying it on to those 2 stitches at the very top. And we're going to do the same thing that we did before on this bottom part. We're just going into that first stitch and the back loop of the first stitch on the last row. Okay, I think I'm happy with that, so I'm going to tie off again. And cut my yarn. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and weave these yarn tails in. Okay, once you weave in all your yarn tails, you are all done with your glove. You can go ahead and rewind the video and follow the exact same steps we just did to make your second glove. I would recommend trying it on first to make sure that you're happy with it. And again, go ahead and make your second identical glove to finish your set. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. We're trying to hit 100,000 crocheters here on the channel. And I will see you guys in the next one.